And now we will go to a deal that you are, probably very familiar with because it is the Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Second time in the last 6 months that they've made a deal. They did make that deal for the Lions straight up and get Jameson Williams during the draft. But the Vikings have acquired tight end TJ Hockenson. They got Hockenson, a 2023 fourth-round pick, and a conditional 2024 fourth-round pick. And the Lions got a 2023 second-round pick and a 2024 third-round pick. What are your thoughts about the trade between your two division rivals?
Man, it makes the Vikings definitely more viable, I think, going forward. Irv Smith's been a tall, solid tight end. I know we both liked him fantasy-wise, but TJ Hockenson, I think, definitely a more talented guy, both run blocking and...
An important note, Irv is out for 8 to 10 weeks.
So this was also kind of like, okay, like Irv's gone, we might need to make a move. And once again, credit to the Vikings. They're 6-1. They just lost their tight end. They're not going to sit there, unlike some other organizations, and be like, oh, well, we'll just rely on the next guy up. No, let's go. We have a good chance to win this series. Let's go get someone that's available. Like I said, Hockenson can definitely help in the run game. And I'd love to see what he can do in the pass game too, because we've seen moments of that in Detroit too, in the passing game, but they haven't, had the best quarterback or the best wide receivers around him. Now he's probably the third option in the receiver game, and he's a pretty good third option to have. And even if he's not producing much in the passing game, still really good run blocker too. So that's only going to help them out in their run game. So I like it, love it for the Vikings really, and for the Lions. I thought it was interesting, but I mean, because he was one of the few bright pieces he had on, offense when the sureties, like, okay, this is like tight end spot, don't have to worry about that. Hawks got a lockdown. Maybe we can draft a backup one, take a chance later in the draft, but we don't have to address that position. Now they may potentially do so. I mean, I don't see a tight end rising among the ranks right now, so but once again, their window's a little different. They're still in the rebuilding phase. So maybe they said, man, like tight end 2 can be a physical position. We don't want something, by the time we're ready to win, Hawkinson's kind of already past his prime, past his due date. So let's just try to get compensation for him now. And, maybe we can develop a guy or draft a guy or even sign a tight end, because sometimes that happens too. You can just sign a guy and, they can fill up that spot. So, especially for second and third, still really good value for a tight end. And, I like it more for the Vikings, this one, obviously, because it's more the impact right now. We know what's going to happen, but could be big for the Lions going forward. Regardless, like I said, I can't fault the Lions here. They are got good compensation, in my opinion, for Hockenson. But what about you?
Par for the course. I like it more for the Lions. So Hawkinson's contract after this year, he does have, I believe, his 5th year option, which would be for about $9 million. But then you're gonna have to pay him. And as a Cowboys fan who's dealing with the same thing with Dalton Schultz right now, they franchise tagged him, and I don't expect them to keep him. I just think tight end's a really replaceable position, and I think Hawkinson's a really good tight end. But I think outside of like Andrews, Kelsey, Pitts, Kittle, and Waller, like those kind of guys that like have separated themselves in terms of like their physical capabilities or their production, I think Hawkinson's a little bit easier to replace. I like I said, I do think he's a good tight end. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and even Waller's a good example. They paid him, but he's been dealing with injuries. He hasn't really been on the field as much. So maybe that's what they're afraid of.
Exactly. So like even him, like, and I put him in that category just because like physically he's one of the fastest tight ends like to ever exist in the NFL. And so like when healthy, he's kind of a game breaker. The issue is that he's not healthy right now. So like that might be even more reason to, bring that point up, because tight end is a very physical position. You got to block, you got to, you're dealing with linebackers and safeties hitting you a lot. And you're down in the trenches a lot. So like it's not an easy position to play. But like Hockenson, I mean, his career best year, he had 700 yards, and that was with Matthew Stafford. Last year with Jared Goff, he had about 600 yards. And, this year, I think he was on pace to do even better. He had 400 yards through 7 games. But I just think that tight end is a little easier to replace. And like I said, maybe it's because I'm a Cowboys fan. We're doing the same thing with Dalton Schultz, and I'm watching as Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot, 2 guys they drafted in the 4th round or later, are essentially looking almost as good as Schultz is. And it's their rookie years. So I think that tight end, you can kind of replace it. And also, like you mentioned, with the rebuild that they're on, I don't think that like they're a year or two away from just instantly fixing it. Maybe 2 years, depending on the quarterback situation, because I don't think anybody really believes that Jared Goff's like the long-term answer. So if they can get like a home run QB in this draft, then maybe. But Hockenson's going to get paid. And if they didn't figure out that home run quarterback, are they willing to pay a tight end like $13 million a year? I don't think so. So I like the move from the Lions on the part of just having some foresight and saying, okay, barring this one specific thing happening, he's not going to fit our timeline. So let's just get out ahead of it now. I like the fact that the Vikings got the 4th round picks back, because I think it kind of offsets the draft capital that they gave up. So overall, I think this is a win-win for both sides. That said, for the Vikings, I don't know. Like out of all the moves, like this felt like the weirdest, because I think tight end is an important position, but I don't think that like anybody, like I would be interested to see what their like Super Bowl title odds were before and after this trade, because I don't think it moves the needle really at all to me, to be honest. Like I think Hockenson's good, but it's like you still got Justin Jefferson who's going to ball out. Adam Thielen's kind of declining, so maybe Hockenson can kind of like help fill that production, but it's like it's still Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook's offense. Kirk is still going to be the person that all the eyes are on, and their defense still has kind of a lot of declining players on that side, or like young players haven't proven themselves. So I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting move, because normally it doesn't feel like, all right, we're going to go all in. We're going to go get a tight end. It feels like, okay, we're going all in. We're going to get a cornerback or an edge rusher or a tackle, a receiver. Tight end, I don't know. I do think he's an impact player. I don't want to undersell how good Hockenson is, but just thought it was strange, because like if they get bounced in the first round, well, now you got to start going into contract negotiations and paying the tight end a lot of money.
Yeah, and maybe they're willing to do so. So who knows? Because yeah, I think regardless, he's better than Irv Smith. So maybe they're like, man, like we lost Irv Smith anyway. It's an upgrade regardless. So. And hey, maybe next year they can have both of them do some 2 tight end stuff too, and be a little more creative in the run game that way. Thanks for watching this clip from the Shut Up and Ball podcast. If you want to see more weekly NFL and NBA content, click the subscribe button, like the video, and if you want to see the full episode this clip came from, go ahead and click here.